Okay, let's start, inshallah. We will continue from the fifth fruit. This is the fifth fruit of the 24th word. So, is there any volunteer to read the fifth fruit? Since our sound is not perfect, can anyone else read the fifth fruit, please? Aishanur, Abdurrahman, like, if you are available.
I can read it. I'm just opening it up. One moment.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. Sorry. Did you say you're not available, or?
Oh, I said I could read it. I'm just opening it up.
Okay. Just that. Thank you.
Okay, inshallah. We're reading the fifth fruit. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the fifth fruit of the fifth branch of the 24th word. And I'll just share it in the chat box. O my soul, as we have stated repeatedly, since man is the fruit of the tree of creation, he is a creature which, like a fruit, is the furthest and most comprehensive and looks to everything, and bears the seed of a heart which holds within it the aspects of unity of everything, and whose face looks to multiplicity, transience, and the world. As for worship, it is a line of union which turns his face from transience to permanence, from creation to creator, from multiplicity to unity, and from the extremity to the source. Or it is a point of union between the source and the extremity. If a valuable conscious fruit, which will form a seed, looks to the living creatures beneath the tree, and relying on its beauty, throws itself into their hands. If a valuable conscious fruit, which will form a seed, looks to the living creatures beneath the tree, and relying on its beauty, throws itself into their hands, if being heedless it falls, it will fall to their hands and be smashed, and will go for nothing like a common fruit. But if the fruit finds its point of support, and it is able to think that by the seed within it holding the aspects of unity of the whole tree, it will be the means of the tree's continuance, and the continued existence of the tree's reality, then a single seed within that single fruit will manifest a perpetual, universal truth within an everlasting life. In the same way, if man plunges into multiplicity, is drowned in the universe, and intoxicated by the love of the world, is deceived by the smiles of ephemeral beings, and casts himself into their arms, he certainly falls into infinite loss. He falls into both transitoriness and ephemerality and non-existence. In effect, he sentences himself to death. But if he listens with the ear of his heart to the lessons in belief from the tongue of the Quran, and raises his hand and turns towards unity, he may rise through the ascension of worship to the throne of perfections. He may become an eternal man. O my soul, since the reality is thus, and since you are a member of the nation of Abraham, peace be upon him, like Abraham say, I love not those that set. Turn your face to the eternal beloved, and weep the following lines like me. The Persian verses to be included here have been included in the second station of the 17th word and have not been repeated here. And that is the end of the fifth fruit, as well as the end of the 24th word.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. So, inshallah, let's start from the beginning. So, as I see this fifth fruit, it's kind of summarizing everything we studied so far. So, for instance, one sentence at the very beginning of the second paragraph. In the same way, if man plunges into multiplicity, is drowned in the universe, and intoxicated by love of the world, is deceived by the smiles of ephemeral beings, and casts himself into their arms, he certainly falls into infinite loss. So all these things that are listed here, they are kind of, what we studied so far. As you would remember, 36 weeks ago, which means almost a year, 50 something a year. Yes, 36 weeks ago, we started with the 24th word, and the first thing we studied was, any guess from audience? Don't look at the pages. Do you remember the first thing we studied in the 24th word? No guess? No, nobody remembers? Okay, it was, as sentence suggests, multiplicity. In the same way, if man plunges into multiplicity, as you would remember, we studied how multiple names of the Creator is manifested at different degrees, in different places, different occasions, and how this multiplicity actually leading us to, or pointing to, unity, oneness of the Creator. That was what we studied. And here author says, if you plunge into multiplicity, and then the other things that we study, drowned in the universe, and then intoxicated by love of world, or if you cannot find your point of support, as mentioned in the previous paragraph, if not following the path of prophethood, so on and so forth. Like, we can see this fifth fruit as a concise summary, and also putting all this together to give us the final fruit, what we will reach if we follow the path of prophethood, if we do not get lost in the multiplicity and so on. So let's start from the first paragraph, inshallah. But before that, does anyone have any comments, remarks, maybe want to summarize what we studied so far, or any questions about the current text? Anything at all? Okay, I take silence as no. So let's start from the first paragraph then. O my soul, as we have stated repeatedly, since man is the fruit of the tree of creation, he is a creature which, like a fruit, is the furthest and most comprehensive, and looks to everything, and bears the seed of a heart which holds within it the aspects of unity of everything, and whose face looks to multiplicity, transience, and the world. So this is a loaded sentence, as you can see. So let's start from the very beginning. As we have stated repeatedly, since man is the fruit of the tree of creation. So what does it mean? Man being a fruit of tree of creation. So we have like a big silence today. People, I guess, experiencing quietness. Of course, this which is that is good for your personality. You should be able to stay silent most of times, but hopefully not today. Okay, there's a comment from Suhail. He says the universe exists for man to exist. In other words, it exists for man to comprehend it or know the manifestation of his names. So universe exists for man to exist. So I assume, Suhail, you cannot speak. Probably environment is not suitable. Otherwise, I would love to hear your voice, but not forcing it. It's not okay. So universe exists for man to exist, or just like the fruit analogy, universe exists, a tree exists, so that the fruit will exist as well. Go ahead. Oh, Suhail, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. Uh, so, yeah, at least from what I because Norsi frequently uses this sort of language. Uh, a fruit to me signifies the end result, or I should know it. Abdurrahman wrote it, I guess. End product of a tree, its most valuable asset, and what all of its systems strive towards. So, the end result. And what all things point to. Every aspect of the tree looks towards the fruit that it produces and fundamentally the seed within that fruit. And I guess man is the same way in that the universe and all its aspects look towards man. They exist for the sake of the fruit and really the seed within that fruit. And I guess the seed is the potential of man to know all aspects of the tree, or in other words, the manifestations of his names. Because the tree, in a sense, represents the universe. And in the same way, the seed, which bears that tree, can know his names or how they manifest. So that's really, I guess he's talking about, in one sense, the essential nature, meaning, and purpose of the existence of the cosmos, and therefore of man, because man is connected to the universe.
Jazakallah khairan. So there's also a comment from Shanur Abdurrahman. Similarly, I understand this to mean, like Suhail, that everything in the universe exists for a human being to realize her own purpose and reason for existing. Being a conscious acknowledger of the Creator. Everything in the universe exists for the human being to realize her own purpose and reason for existing. Being a conscious acknowledger of the Creator. So would you like to expand this? Because I have this question. So from another aspect, when we look at the universe, especially when you look at from a secular point of view, which might be a valid one, I don't know, we need to discuss. The human being is just a speck of dust in the universe. Not much valuable, not much special, just yet another product of evolution. And there might be some other, even superior species living out there, I don't know, somewhere in space. Even the Earth itself, our world, is nothing but a tiny speck. Thus, the people living inside are probably even smaller, less valuable. So what do you think? This is obviously just the opposite of what you are suggesting here. So Ayşenur and Dr. Rahman, if you like to expand your comment, you are more than welcome.
I mean, I don't know if I have much to say, but you know, as a human being, I find myself with like immense needs in all my interactions, in all of my endeavors. I am constantly finding myself in need of something, whether that's in need of a sort of how-to manual or a guidance or just support, or just ease. I look at everything around me with that need in mind. And you know, everything in the world that I interact with invites me into a relationship with it, in which through its very transience, as the author is saying here, through its very transience, it declares that it can't really help me. But through that same transience, it invites me to look to its source and investigate it, and try to find one that can fulfill those needs. And yeah, I mean, it's this first paragraph, as I was reading it, I thought, wow, he's really stretching this analogy. Like he keeps going on about the fruit, and then like I almost got lost within the analogy. You know, I think it might be worthwhile to kind of further explore all the different implications that he's drawing out in it. But yeah, that's all I have to say for now.
Oh, Jazakallah khairan, Mohammed Said. Let's continue with you, and then I can share my thoughts.
Assalamu alaikum. I was thinking on the question that you brought up, and the position of the human being is described in relation to the universe. So it's like a whole picture, not only the human being, but how the human being is positioned in the universe. As I am able to relate to the things and I am, my needs are being satisfied within the universe, my need of love being satisfied with the friendship. So these are all within the universe, and there a point comes, I find myself that in a point that I yearn for more friendship, but the universe doesn't offer me. And then I realized that I think this is some kind of something like not something like this is related to the multiplicity, because I want a continuation of this friendship, but the universe is not able to offer me. And there, I think the need of unity comes up. So the relationship between human being and the universe as a whole, it's a very uh, it's a harmony that it is kind of entangled. And that's therefore I start asking the things from the universe itself. And there I need an explanation why I feel stuck, why the universe doesn't offer me what I need, cannot satisfy my need. Uh, so I think the author is bringing that need, mentioning about it, and then saying that the universe and the position of the human being within this universe is an action, a conscious choice. Therefore, I need to face, while I'm within the universe, I need to see the real actor and connect with it. Something like this. Thank you.
Jazakallah khairan for both. So I have some comments on the first sentence and the first part that we read, but before diving too deep, I'm just looking at Yusuf, whether he wants to locate the current discussion within the bigger picture so that we don't get lost, or any other comments. So what I was thinking was, as you were comparing with a secular point of view, I was just looking at his metaphor. He specifically says tree of creation, because at a secular point of view, it is a tree of evolution. And that tree has multiple fruits. Like monkey is another fruit, human is another fruit. And although it's a tree out of randomness, again, metaphorically speaking, for that other perspective, there are multiple fruits. But in the metaphor that he uses, he specifically says this is the tree of creation. And creation coming out from a single creator. Human is being the only fruit, or like, at least going with the analogy, a tree has a single type of fruit. So like tree has leaves, tree has branches, tree has everything else. But a tree has, when we say fruit of a tree, it means the goal of that tree, the finest specimen of that tree, and it also includes another tree within it. So I guess that type of a distinction is there. Like from the point of view that the author is talking about, human is the purpose of this existence. So in what sense? Now if we tie it back to the previous branches and fruits. So with worship, consciously being aware of what is being meant by this existence, by this universe, human is that fruit. Like eventually, he's not talking about human's body, but human's conscious worship is the fruit of this existence. So I guess in this sense, we can locate this fifth fruit. What is it that it is fruit of creation, tree of creation? It is human's worship that makes it the fruit of that tree, I guess. So I have something similar in mind, like trying to unpack the analogy. He's talking about a tree and then food. An interesting thing is that if you have a fruit of a tree, you know the tree. You can even replicate the tree. You just, plant the fruit and tree comes out. So same thing, he says, man has this comprehensive, very detailed, including everything, extensive and exhaustive copy of the rest of the universe. He mentions this in other places. When we look from this perspective, I guess it's easy to see how this analogy works. Just like a seed having a copy of everything about the tree. So how we know that, when we look at ourselves, we see that our relationship with the universe is not a relationship of a whole and a part. It is not like there's a whole universe and we are only a part of it. If we look from this perspective, of course, we become a speck of dust, even something smaller than that. But when we look at our relationship with the universe, we see something different. Whatever exists in the universe, there's a correspondence in us. We have relationship with everything in the universe. We have our feelings against the object of the universe or for objects of the universe. We can think about them, we can manipulate them. They affect every detail in the universe, somehow affect our lives. And in the same way, we affect them. So our relationship is like, it's not an exaggeration to say that a human has a copy of everything in the universe. It's not like, having a miniature universe in us, like in the literal sense, but I guess we can think it as just the relationship between, a similar way, this relationship between the hunger and food. This pairing between the two. We see that the same thing exists with everything in the universe. A pairing is there within us. Hence, we are the fruit of the universe. And so, anyway, this is what I understand with this analogy of tree and the fruit, on top of what already been said about the purpose, the goal, and so on. Because from our perspective, when we look at the universe, we do see that. It's not an assumption or a claim. We do see that everything works on behalf of us. Even the giant sun is there to warm us up or feed us, give us energy we need, whatever. Like, at least to me, this is not wishful thinking, or this is not just making up stories. To me, it is a stupid story to say that, oh no, sun is already there, and lucky to us, we are benefiting from it. So when we look at from our perspective, and when we are honest to ourselves, this is how we feel, this is how we live our life. In a way that the universe, the entire universe, working on behalf of us. Any comments so far? Okay, let's continue with the verse. Whose face looks to multiplicity, transience, and the world. So who's here, I guess, may refer to human being, also the seed of a heart, maybe. But it doesn't matter. So man or human being looking into multiplicity, transience, and the world. Is that so? Abdurrahman, is that so for you? So since there's a silence from there, so the way I see this sentence is like, this is how we live initially, right? We see that the different things as we studied at the very beginning, again, 36 weeks ago, when we look at the universe, when we look at our lives, like when I say like look at the universe, it sounds as if we trying to investigate something. When we just live our lives, we see this multiplicity, right? We have our parents who have different feelings, which are different than how our friends or spouse feel. They have their own needs. My friend have their own needs. I have to satisfy them, which is a separate thing than satisfying my friends or my spouse. Sometimes they even contradict. Like you cannot make both your husband and your father, or both your wife and your mother happy at the same time. So there is this multiplicity. There is even this contradiction. Sometimes, how would you say, tension between things. So kind of enforcing the idea that there is multiplicity. Because from point to point, time to time, we see that they don't even act as if there's one united purpose, but rather they most of the times act against each other. That's how we see. And also there's transience. I guess that's obvious as well. Everything we have goes away, especially the things that we love, they goes away quickly. Things that we hate, they don't go away that quickly, but they do go away eventually. And then he says, as for worship, it is a line of union which turns its face from transience to permanence, from creation to creator, from multiplicity to unity, and from the extremity to the source, or it is a point of union between the source and the extremity. I'm not sure what this extremity refers to. Any ideas? But I'm not fishing. Genuinely speaking, I don't know what it refers to. From creation to creator, from multiplicity, unity, and from the extremity to the source. Or it is a point of union between the source and the extremity. To the beginning. Oh, is it like I am alpha and omega kind of thing? Like, okay. Oh, Suhail, please go ahead.
I don't know what the word in Turkish is, but I think maybe the translator meant not extremity as in limb, but extremity as in the most extremely distant point. In other words, the fruit is in a sense, the not quote unquote the extremity of the tree per se, but like the extreme end, like the end, so to speak, like the final point. And that's how I would that to me is the comparison he's making. Um, Transience and permanence, as you said. Um, I don't know about alpha and omega, but because that pertains to him to be it signifies being all encompassing. But here I think he's making the point the opposite between transience and permanence, creation and creator, multiplicity and unity, extremity and source. Some the or a point of unity between the source and the extremity, in that worship connects these two opposites. And because man is transient, man is creation, man is the manifestation of multiplicity, and he is the extremity, so to speak, or the fruit or the extreme point from the source. It's worship that connects these two. That's the line of union between the fruit and the source. But that's how I understood it.
Well, what you suggest makes much more sense. Like it is, I guess, alpha omega. The example or analogy was kind of stupid. So we should ignore that. And so worship then gives us a way to reach the creator or union from multiplicity. That's, I guess, what been suggested in the first few weeks as well of the 24th word, again, many months ago. We've been studying there, there is multiplicity in the universe. There is all these differences, but at the same time, we're talking about a prophet, his path, and reaching to the union by following the path of prophet. So I guess now he's summarizing this path of prophet as worship, maybe. Any comments here? I realize that I'm not that clear. Any suggestions, any comments? Okay. So, I'm looking at my own case. So when I say I'm getting lost, for instance, what is happening? What makes me say that I am getting lost? So when I say I get lost, it's either I am trying to solve something and it's beyond my reach, or I have some hopes from the future, but I don't know how to get it, or a lot of expectations out there and I'm not able to deliver them, or there are things that I am very regretful about in the past. So these are all making me get lost. And in the meantime, there are things are happening. Let's say I'm trying to talk, then Zainab in here is trying to do something, and then I'm getting lost. These are the things that are making me get lost. So, and this is my reality, because the problem in here is I am trying to attain something by myself. I am feeling like I am the ruler, or I should have. I'm expecting. I have this expectation from myself that I should be able to figure out all the things that I'm in need of. But yes, I guess we all say that I got lost. So in here, the author is suggesting that at this very end of creation, very end in the sense that as if there's nothing beyond that, it is the manifestation. And if I am oblivious to what is behind it, it becomes like a dead end at the same time. Like it is like the reflection of the sun in the mirror is the farthest end of that light, because now it is being reflected. But it can even be that if I am oblivious about sun, the mirror becomes like a dead end for me. And this is what is happening in my life. I am getting lost because I feel like I need to control, or I need to have a good luck, this and that, so it is becoming like a dead end. So the author is suggesting in here, as he has been building up so far, worship is going to take me back from this vortex and take me back to the source, where I'm going to find the solution. And not only that, this very moment that is making me feel get lost is going to become fruitful in this case. If I make this connection between that moment of me that so much scattered me, but realizing my neediness, and rather than saying that I should be able to cope with it, if I say that no, the purpose of me experiencing this moment is not for me to try to cope with it, but to recognize my neediness, and the one who is setting the whole tree as such. None of us is really maintaining this tree as it is. The tree is being maintained, and I am part of that tree as a fruit. I have been maintained, I am being maintained. So being cognizant of the fact that İyyâke nâbudu ve İyyâke nestaîn, from you only, to you only we do worship, and from you only we do seek help. If I realize this recognition is going to connect me to the source, will save me from all my burdens, and it's going to make my life worthy. Otherwise, in the metaphor, author says, I'm going to become rotten. And I truly feel getting rotten as, generally, I guess in the daily language, we don't say it as I am feeling rotten, but we generally say I feel lost. And I think this is very beautifully, the metaphor author says in here is falling from that tree is, because I am saying that the world is beautiful, I want to enjoy, and then I am getting lost in this multiplicity of the things that are surrounding me. If a valuable conscious fruit which will form a seed looks to the living creatures beneath the tree, and relying on its beauty throws itself into their hands, if being heedless it falls, it will fall to their hands and be smashed, and will go for nothing like a common fruit. But if the fruit finds its point of support, it is able to think that by the seed within it, holding the aspects of unity of the whole tree, it will be the means of tree's continence and continued existence of the tree's reality. Then a single seed within that single fruit will manifest a perpetual universal truth within an everlasting life. Suhail, you were raising your hand. Please go ahead if you still want to speak.
No, I was just going to say that to me, at least, why he's bringing worship here at the end. I mean, it's essentially what Yusuf was saying, but when you brought up the example of of secular thought considering man as a speck. In a sense, that's disconnecting man from the source, or disconnecting the extremity from the source. And when that happens, there's really nothing for man to live for if you think about it. There's no really meaning or purpose. You know, man isn't a fruit of the tree of creation. It's just another random happening, as you all pointed out, or any explanation. You know, it usually what it always goes back to is some sort of random happening, some sort of chaos, chance event that man exists. But you know that it's contradictory to who man is, or what man sort of desires, or desires to experience, desires that connection, and it's an inborn, innate desire for connection, and you can't explain that, the existence of that, by some sort of random happening, chance, or chaos. It's impossible to do so. So, you know, getting fixated on the material aspect of man, the spec aspect, so to speak, you lose the fact of what makes a human being a human being. And, you know, by doing so, you essentially deny your humanity at that point. So there's no point to even really, you know, be living. And the last thing I'll say, it's an interesting contradiction, because why bother even thinking about yourself or study the universe, which maybe a secular scientist would try to do? Why bother? There's no point. If one considers one is just a random event, chance event, then there's no point in doing anything. But in the opposite sense, worship is the only thing that can bridge that connection between the universe and the source of existence, between man, the fruit of the universe, and his source.
Thank you. So I guess here also, like this two comparison, falling down or becoming countenance, and the tree's countenance and the continued existence of tree's reality. So I guess this is also related to the question that we posed at the beginning, comparison between you know, this worldview the author suggesting, and this secular worldview in which man is nothing valuable, nothing special. So I guess the author says, if you see yourself as a mere product of blind forces, I guess these looking what beneath the tree and relying living herself, himself into their hands. When I see myself as a mere product of these blind forces and relying on them, leaving myself into their hands, you know, my future is determined by many different forces. It's determined by virus, it's determined by my boss, my wife, my parents, my children, the people I know, people I don't know, politicians, the politicians of different governments, so on and so forth, then I truly become a speck of dust. I become something valueless. But when I realize my relationship with the universe, when I realize the potentiality that I have, there's infinitely many connections I have with the universe at infinitely many degrees, then something starts changing. Then I become something valuable, something representing the entire universe. And then as I realize further and see that everything in the universe, including myself, is being created. So when from the multiplicity, when I reach the source, when I reach the creator of the multiplicity, when I see the unity there, then I become the vicegerent of this creator, representing everything in the universe, or quote unquote, leading everything in the universe. So I guess which one is true, it depends on your point of view. If you leave yourself into hands of these forces, causes, then you are nothing valuable. Otherwise, you are the most valuable thing in the universe. But still, I guess we couldn't emphasize enough this worship part. So after all these discussions so far, what do we understand worship and how it relates us to the source? Any comments here? Go ahead, please.
I'm trying to understand the text practically, what does, since we are at the conclusion of the text, so what does this practically mean? So, yeah, there is this tendency in me. I want to be known, I want to be appreciated by my friends, by my boss. I want to leave some legacy behind. I want to be widely known across the world. So these sorts of feelings are there, and I guess this is what the author is saying when he says, if you get deceived by their smiling at you. So because if I become successful, everybody likes successful people, unless they are competitors. We don't know who Einstein was. We never met him, but like he must be a full guy. I would like to meet him. If I can get a signature from him over his picture, it's going to be something good for me.
And valuable.
Yeah, and valuable. And I'm going to smile at him. Like in this sense, I'm always smiling at him. Likewise, when I close my eyes, I see people smiling at me when I'm that successful, when I get this Nobel Prize sharing with Brother Bikram. So,
Before it was only me. Now we are sharing. That's great. You're improving. You're making progress.
That's why I keep telling you, add my name to your papers so that we can share it. Anyways, yeah, I'm feeling like people are smiling at me, or this, in this sense, like world is smiling at me. So, but the author is saying, don't do that. So what does that mean? Shall Brother Birkan not add my name to his papers, or shall I not target Nobel Prize? Things like this. But the author is as if saying that what is it that makes it attractive for you? Is it the smiling of those transitory things that attracts you? So, or getting a Nobel Prize is something that attracts my attention because it connects to me to my creator. I mean, if there are people do things like the second case, then yeah, they're beautiful for them. They're able to connect getting Nobel Prize or reading the purpose behind it. But in my personal life, so since I am the person now making this comment, and I will try to be honest. So I want to be appreciated just because I achieved that success. And now the author is saying that transitory people like you, they, with their smiles, are also going to depart from this world. And if you invest your life for getting those smiles, which they themselves are going to disappear at some point, so what did you do? You disappeared, the smiles that you longed for, they also disappeared. So simply you got rotten. Is it a worthy life? Is it a worthy way of living this life? You kept carrying so many burdens on your shoulders just to get these smiles. And at the end, at the expense of you destroying your whole life, even those smiles are going to disappear. They themselves are going to get destroyed. So it's not a wise investment. You wouldn't like to do that. But given your capacity, this is not something that you would like to do. So, he says instead, try to find this the interesting word that caught my attention is in the translation, was it relying?
Throw itself into the event.
So,
Relying on its beauty. So your own beauty. So,
I couldn't find it in the translation, but the word that he uses is if this man finds his point of support. So, or reference point there to rely on. Because initially I was relying on my own beauty, my own like supposedly own beauty, or my supposedly own resources, and also relying on what was my fuel to run, the smiles of those transitory things. He says rather than this, you should change your or find your point of support. None of these are going to satisfy me in reality. Although I run after them like this, what is it? Horse running after a carrot? Was it horse?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I keep running after it because there seems to be some sort of a hope of joy, not really the joy, but hope of joy, imaginary joy that is to happen, will happen if I can catch it, which will never happen. So when it says you are going to find this reference point through worship, I think this is the important part. How does worship make me find my point of support, my reference point, so that everything in this life would become meaningful for me, so that everything that I now feel get lost in becomes a means for me, for my ultimate goal of finding the satisfaction. I guess in the sense, if I go with the understanding of worship, realizing my neediness and the fact that I am being provided constantly. If I focus on this aspect of it, rather than trying to fill the gaps by myself, if I can make this a habit, then things might change for me. Otherwise, I guess I will keep getting lost in life, which is, I guess, eventually it's becoming default state.
Any comments so far since he started talking practically I assume people want to contribute. Okay, not much. Let's continue, inshallah. Oh, Suhail, please go ahead. Thank you very much, Suhail. Like, you've been our savior today.
You know, practically speaking, it's to me easier said than done. It makes sense what he's saying, but I'll put it this way. I think, especially in this modern world, or modern civilization. Well, I haven't lived in any other civilization, so I couldn't know. But my experience here is that, you know, the more quote unquote educated you are, so to speak, or the more you progress in the structure set up by a civilization or a society in which there's a value placed on secular ideas or secular thought, the more you want to sort of obtain that recognition. What I mean to say is that, like Yusuf brought up the example, you know, about being recognized or appreciated. You know, if one is a physicist, the desire for recognition, let's say with a Nobel Prize in physics, becomes more and more difficult to resist, or becomes more and more apparent the higher or further you progress within that sort of secular framework. You know, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it seems easier, or maybe it's less difficult to get caught up in recognition and appreciation. The quote unquote, the more illiterate you are, so to speak. I don't mean illiterate as in like unintelligent, but as in you're not within this structure or framework that values recognition. Because the only way somebody progresses in this civilization is by recognition, is by in a way being appreciated. Then people know who that person is, and then they climb up or rise the professional rank, and become more and more recognized and more valued. So this is my commentary on things. It, you know, to me, that's one interesting thing about the prophet being illiterate, in the sense of, you know, he wasn't a part of that value structure that put value on, maybe in his time, family or wealth, lineage, tribe. So that's just my comment on this.
Jazakallah khair, an interesting point. I guess, like in that sense, being illiterate, it makes things easier when it comes to finding the source. Because the opposite, being literate, as author says, relying on its beauty, saying that I am beautiful, or saying that I know things. I guess it leads you throwing yourself into the hands of all other things around you. if knowledge is power, for instance, if knowledge is something that you yearn for, then there are many obstacles in front of you that you have to tackle with. You have to go through to reach the knowledge. So you have to throw yourself into the hands of many things in your life. You have to get acceptance from university, then you have to pay for it. Then you have to work really hard to pay your loans. Then you have to work in a occupation that you have to, that you can earn that much money, so on and so forth. Like your yearning for knowledge, but seeing it as something within, as something exists out there by itself, and you have to grasp it. It is not something given to you. When you see it that way, when you see yourself as literate, then there's multiplicity for you. And as Yusuf was saying, you will get lost among all these smiles that you are going after. Suhail, please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody here, maybe you all have, or some of you have, if you've known somebody in your family, let's say grandparents' generation, most likely, maybe if educated, minimally educated or illiterate. And to me, there's a sort of, I don't know if innocence is the right word, or there's not an emphasis placed on that as much. And I think, as I said, it becomes more and more difficult when you start, especially within a society or a civilization that values what have you contributed of material value to society or the building up of that civilization. And I think here anybody in a professional field can attest to that and probably has experienced that. So it's, to me, it makes sense, but when you're surrounded by it or you become a part of it, it's a very different matter. So.
Which is external. Go ahead, please.
And also, author talks about falling from that tree, and that tree in the metaphor was tree of creation. So, do I feel like I am attached to a tree? Because being attached to a tree, if I am aware of that, that means to be able to comfortably say, İyyâke nâbudu ve İyyâke nestaîn, we worship you, and from you we seek help. I need to see the whole existence as, if you like, my brothers in being given existence, and we are being provided by the same creator. But in the metaphor, author is talking about either intentionally jumping down the tree or with heedlessness falling down. So if I start saying that I exist by myself or I am sufficient by myself, so this is what makes me get detached from the tree of creation. In a sense, I am starting to claim that, as we keep discussing this in the discussions, this is as if I am claiming to become sort of a small God of my own in a smaller scale. So this detachment is what really kills me. But on the contrary, he says worship, but not an individual worship either. So this recognition of being needy, all of us being needy, including me in this existence, and we are seeking from you help. This consciousness is what makes me, together with the tree, actually, I am becoming a whole as like the tree. Because if I say, like in the let's say, if I go to the workplace and if I start talking about my nation as we, and say we are such and such, this is how people understand how I feel about it when I do it. I am as if becoming like my nation and speaking on behalf of them. So am I able to do this with the universe? Like we do seek your help and we do worship you. If I can do so, I become like the whole tree of creation. So as much as since this is something that we experience and we practice when it comes to our nation, I guess we can maybe make this metaphor for ourselves. So practically, what does it mean to be attached to that tree? And as the author was saying, this connection from end to the beginning, or what does this mean really? Individually, I am just a single person of my nation, but when it comes to like we are such and such, sort of making such speech, I feel like I am as the whole. So do I feel the same when it comes to this existence in reference to my provider, our provider?
But like this detachment is almost inevitable, I guess. Inevitable, as we don't have any, as author says, the point of support to claim a unity of the universe. Like when it comes to your nation, you think being part of this culture or living within some boundaries makes you part of this nation. When it comes to the universe, what it makes you same with the rest of the universe, like what brings you and let's say a far star together, what is it? You have to see that both are created by the same creator. So from this multiplicity, you have to reach the source, you have to reach this unity, and it will become your point of support to claim that I am part of the tree of the universe. Otherwise, as you said, you will just fall down. So without seeing the createdness of things and yourself, without seeing what unites you together, the detachment is inevitable. You are your by your own, everyone by her or his own. Any comments so far? So it becomes a useless practice today. It became, sorry. I'm asking, nobody other than Suhail is speaking, but I will still continue asking. Any comments? Any questions so far? Okay, let's continue. So we studied the first part of the second paragraph as well, but please feel free to jump in if you think there's an important part that needs to be discussed further. So the second part, so what happens when we follow the path of worship, or I'm saying path of profit, referring to previous sections that we discussed, although it's not explicitly mentioned here. But if he listens with the ear of his heart to the lessons in belief from the tongue of the Quran. So if he listens with his heart, the speech of or tongue of Quran, and raises his head and turns towards unity, he may rise through the ascension of worship he may rise through the ascension of worship to the throne of perfections. He may become an eternal human. Raising through the ascension of worship, I guess there's an allusion here to Salah being the Miraj, ascension of the worshipper or believer. But of course, we can take it in a more generic sense. So listening the tongue of Quran or listening the lessons of belief in belief from the tongue of Quran. So belief lessons from tongue of Quran and listening this with heart. Go ahead, please.
I am thinking about alternatives of that and how do I aim for perfection in this life. So, like reading, but what in our modern day, what sort of things that I would like to read, and I guess in all ages, reading is sort of attaining perfection, because learned people are like more perfect or more like more human, more complete human, or at least this is the imagery that we have. But what comes to human mind or my mind is like reading philosophy of any sort, like knowledge that is gathered throughout like generations. It might be Western philosophy, it might be Eastern philosophy, it doesn't matter. But by obtaining this knowledge, I am aiming to get, because otherwise, what is even an alternative to that? It is more like tasting more food or tasting different sorts of joys. Like you take this lower than going and studying and reading things. But author in here is saying that by reading Revelation, like as a source of perfection, I am seeking perfection from or guidance from the one who gives existence to me. Because the perfection is going to be established to the extent that I fulfill the purpose of my existence, which can be provided to me by my maker, my creator. I guess this is why it says reading from Quran, matters of belief. And then this is one leg of attaining perfection. So this is where I'm going to seek for knowledge or trying to make sense of existence. But also in the other side is talking about ascending to that perfection with worship. It's not only intellectually reading something, because he said reading with the eye of heart, ear of heart. So which also implies it's not exclusively a matter of intellect, but also something that should be touching my feelings, because heart is this seat of love. So when I study Quran, so is it satiating my feelings also? And then am I submitting to that reality? Because when it comes to worship, it is taking a stand. It's not simply a passive state of okay, I understood something. It's not like that, but it's taking an active stand. Do I submit to my reality? Do I admit that I am needy? And do I actively seek help from my nature? Am I able to just forego my egotism? That is, this is what worship is. With that, ascending to perfection can happen.
It's interesting. Author does not say read Quran, but he says listen with the ear of heart, listening these belief lessons from the tongue of Quran. He says yes. from the tongue of Quran, like it's almost, at least the way I see it, it's almost an image of something is talking to you, actively talking to you. It's not, the point that you highlighted. It's not like going and looking for knowledge from the books. So he's not referring Quran as another book. He's referring Quran as something speaking to you. You listen it, and from the tongue of Quran, the way I understand is that when you're trying to make sense of things, yourself, your life, everything around you, taking it from the tongue of Quran, it's as if rely on how Quran defines you, how Quran defines the things around you. So different books or different, let's say, ideas will define you different ways. So for instance, this mainstream secular ideology would say you are a product of these blind forces, the evolutionary tree. But Quran says, no, you are something created. So now I'm listening from the tongue of Quran. When I try to make sense of myself, for instance, I would say, I am a created being. Who created me? That would become a relative question, for instance. But if I listen myself, like try to understand myself from tongue of the first ideology, the question is not even relevant. I'm not something someone created.
And I guess what makes me not hear speech of Quran is if I am against listening to anything other than this existence.
Yes.
Because listening to philosophy means, like, it doesn't necessarily need to have word philosophy in the title of the book, but the idea is it's a speech from within that existence, and I am close to any sort of explanation.
So it's not even speech, because to say something is speech, you have to accept an active agent speaking, purposeful, wishful, not wishful, with the irade, willful, yeah. An agent must be there so that there will be speech. So when you read within the existence, it's nothing but some data points, maybe.
Yeah. And if I take humans that speak and try to make sense of it, like books of humans in this sense, which they themselves are against anyone to give purpose and meaning to existence from outside of this existence, then this is what it means to read philosophy, then I'm getting lost in there. But when he says listen to Quran, because Quran is, in some other places the author uses the word, Quran is reading the universe. Quran itself being the speech or book, reading the book of universe, and as if writing a commentary. Quran is a commentary of this existence. So am I open to that, or from the very beginning I'm against the idea of no, this is the answer should come from within this existence, from it, not from outside. So if I'm like that, then I am becoming the first type of fruit, which is falling down from the tree and rotting.
So then I guess the author's suggestion here is that listen to Quran, start with the Quran, make sense of things in the light of Quran. As you said, it is a commentary. So as if a director is making comment about the movie, when you listen it, you can make more sense of the movie. You listen Quran, which explaining you what's happening around you, making sense of all the darkness in your life, why I'm going through all these, nonsensical things. Quran makes sense of things. Start with this, rely on that, and then, as you said, put this into practice. Start living your life as such, as Quran describes your life. Apply it in your worship. So life becomes a worship, the entire life becomes worship. And then summarize your entire life within these, let's say, 5 daily prayers. Then you will ascend from valueless, unimportant being who has to just rotten and become nothing. From that, you will raise and you will ascend to the throne of perfections, meaning you will realize everything that you experienced so far, everything you face, is coming from the throne of perfection, coming from Him. But again, to do so, you have to follow the path of Prophet, as we discussed previous sections. So if there's no other comments, I will read the last paragraph and then conclude. Waiting a few seconds. O my soul, since the reality is thus, and since you are a member of the nation of Abraham, peace be upon him, like Abraham said, I do not love those that said, turn your face to the eternal beloved and read the following lines like me. The following lines are not included here. So it is in the second station of the 17th verse. So you can look at there. I do not love those that said. So we discussed this in two, I guess, section before, when we were studying the love. So I was looking whether there's comment, remarks, otherwise. Okay, let's conclude inshallah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Al-Fatiha.